Hey everybody, it's Jeanette Bradley. How are you? Tonight we've got another session of What is the Ask, and it's right now four friends, two in Atlanta, two down here in Tampa, and we're talking about issues that are of consequence to Black Americans. In almost a little over a year, we're going to be voting for the next president of the United States. And one of the things Black folks need to do is start having these conversations and sharing their thoughts and opinions because we need to come to a place where voting is strategic and it is getting some of the things Black folks need in America. So tonight I have four friends, two out of Atlanta. That's Albert and Alton. And here in Tampa, that's Mona. So
Absolutely.
this has been heavy for me, this whole peace in the Middle East. I used to say that all the time. Peace in the Middle East, peace in the Middle East. And I swear to you, to this day, I had no idea what
Yep.
I was talking about. I did not know what I was talking about. And whenever at the end of every presidential run, and in that last month, 2 months, 6 months, they are over there trying to bring um, the Palestinians and the Israel to Camp David, and they're gonna solve peace in the Middle East. Even when Trump lied about whatever he was doing to solve peace in the Middle East, I thought that that was just. I'm not even sure what I thought it was. I just knew it couldn't happen, and then I couldn't understand why it couldn't happen. And then I started seeing people getting canceled because they were not pro Israel and maybe left the door open for let's check out and see what's going on with the Palestinians. Why do we not have peace in the Middle East? Why? And is this another case of a very uneducated populace that take what we see on media and from our politicians and adopt it as the answer, the way it is? And that's what I have done my entire adult life when it comes to what the heck is going on over there in Israel, in Palestine, in Jordan, Lebanon, all of that. What is going on there? And before I could say anything on Facebook, because I see some people, I'm saying, don't say nothing if you don't know nothing.
No,
Don't
people.
say I'm pro Israel if you don't understand what that means, right?
Yeah.
Because I was already mad with Netanyahu, whatever. I was already mad with how he's trying to deal with the government. And now I got to be fully supportive. I got to think that through, right? But they're canceling college students who even got job offers, those offers being rescinded. Colleges and universities are getting attacked because their stance is not strong enough. And I guess I want to know from you guys, what's the problem?
Oh,
There's a
we're
there's
Well,
a
speak.
man. There's
let
a
me start
man.
off first.
Go ahead, Mona.
Let me start first because I don't have much. I've been following Albert, but what I could tell you, what kind of got me really looking at Israel and the Jews when this summer when Cannon was being canceled and they came out and made him apologize for something he said,
Yeah.
and then when the basketball player like the movie, I went and looked at the movie and I said, well, who are these people who can have this much power and tell us what we can and cannot say about them? Did they really and have they really stood up for us? And my thing has always been I'm going to be on the side of the oppressed. And those Palestinians, they remind me of us. So I'm following Albert lead. That's what I have to say on it. I'm standing with them.
You're following whose lead?
Albert.
Alberts.
Albert, what's your lead? What are you saying?
I'm saying if you read the history of what has gone on over there, you have to come to one conclusion,
What's that?
that that little strip of land is under siege 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a
Yes.
year. Jimmy Carter wrote a book, and I've been telling everybody to read this book called Peace. No, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. And he lays out the whole agenda. As a Palestinian in that little strip, you cannot walk to the bathroom
I
without
know.
Israel knowing what kind of toilet paper you're using in
That's
that
true.
bathroom.
Very true.
They listen to everything coming out of there. Now, here was one of the dirtiest parts in that book. They raise crops, Alton,
Mm-hmm.
olives, and they have to take them to market. And to get to market, they have to cross this bridge between the Gaza and oh, no. There for a
Started have
week or
to
two.
start at the bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
They would stall the trucks on the bridge and would not allow them to cross the bridge until after the harvest had gone bad. So
Yeah.
that even when they got off the bridge, they couldn't sell them to anybody. You see,
Mm.
and Jimmy Carter told this story.
Wow.
He put that book out, and those
Wow.
Jewish people came over to Emory and said, take his name off of the library, take his name off of any building that's over there, because they didn't want to know the truth. And
Mm.
that's why I said you got to read, because the news media
Yeah.
is controlled primarily by the Jewish constabulary, okay? And they made their connections, and so I don't have to be for Palestine. I got to be for peace, though. I got to be for right. I got to say
I like that.
6,000 bombs in the last week. If I told you that I came to Florida and I bombed one city, let's say St. Pete, I put 6,000 bombs over in St. Pete, what would you say?
Mm-hmm.
You see, and that's what
Well,
Israel
if
has
you
done
did
to
that,
Palestine.
if you did that because I attacked you and that was a retaliation, then maybe I'd say, okay, well, I deserved it.
Let me compare. If I was in St. Pete, the most I could do, because I don't have that kind of artillery, is to drive two or three of my trucks over there, hit two or three of your trucks, and maybe create a big wreck.
Yeah.
Maybe hurt a few people that way.
Yeah.
I don't have 6,000 bombs to drop on your place. We're not fighting equal to equal.
Right.
This is true.
Remember, I'm in prison. I am imprisoned there.
That's true.
When they want to, they can cut off my water, they can cut off my food, they can cut off my electricity. Here's what they did, and you guys might remember this. Some kind of way, when other people pay the people in Gaza, they have it fixed so that the money has to go through the Israeli banks.
Mm.
Israel cut that money off and said, we ain't paying you nothing right now. So once again, you starve them. Okay, you see what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
building the case that you need to listen. The last thing I'm going to tell you before you come in, there's a guy named Finkelstein. He's supposedly the authority on Israel. Finkelstein, look him up. He's doing an interview. He said that the Jews got a nutritionist and asked the nutritionist, what's the minimum daily amount of food I can give these people so that they just barely stay alive. They don't die, they just barely stay alive. How many calories is that? And once they find out that number, that's the only amount of food they would let them eat.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Mm-hmm.
so when I read all of that and I hear all of that, I have to say, Israel, you are in violation of a lot of laws that somebody needs to bring you to task on. And
Mm-hmm.
it sure ain't going to be America, because as we speak, Biden is flying over there now.
Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's my case. That's my case. Not for the Palestinians, but for justice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And black folk ought to understand justice if they don't understand anything else.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it. I
Now,
like that you
let me ask you a
emphasize
question.
that.
What is the difference between that and the concentration camps that the Germans had the Jews in. It this just you saying this, it just sounds sickening. These people was slaves; they were oppressed, and the Jews turned around and doing the same thing that was done to them. That they say that was done to
Mhm.
them, they doing to this group.
Now,
Well, you see, that's the thing, right? Is that
All the same time,
that
them in a gas chamber. The only thing they're not doing is putting them in a gas chamber, but they're
hmm
killing them slowly.
Okay.
so here's the piece that you need to remember. If I take you, Mona, right now, chain you, beat you, kick you, kill you for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, there's a strong chance that when I let you go,
There you go.
the way you resolve your problems is going to be the same way that I resolve my problem with you. You're going to kick, you're going to beat, because that's what you learn. And I said
Yeah.
that when the Germans came out, they all that survived probably should have gone to some kind of big straight camp where they all, because even when you come out of war, you got to go to you're supposed to go to some kind of big straight
mm,
camp where they cleanse you
yeah,
of all of that stuff that went on there so that you don't have the option of doing it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
That's a that's a
yeah,
that's a good
I
point.
agree. I like to say that about my dog. My dog loves me to death, but let me not feed that dog for a month and keep that dog chained up. And then I
Hmm
let him go. And then put some food down and try to grab it. That dog is going to attack me for
Right.
sure.
Right.
So
Right.
I get that. And you're absolutely right about that. Alton, you're going
Yep.
to say something? Alton?
Yeah, when I look at most political problems, I like to use a framework where I start off looking at the overall philosophy, then the narrative is next, then you got the politics, the policy, and then the law. And what the Israelis have done is that for the past 75 years, mind you, their state was started just 3 years after the Second World War. So going to
Yes.
Jeanette's point, they had no time to cleanse,
Right.
right? But they've taken, yeah, the reason they hold sway over Americans so much
Why?
is that Americans, and I'll speak to black folk first, and then a lot of these religious Southern whites. They believe this nonsense that these people are the chosen people.
I
Say it
know.
again.
It's nonsense. They are not the chosen people.
Yes.
I remember one day sitting down, one day I'm sitting, I don't know where I was.
Okay,
I'm like,
wait. Who believes that? White evangelicals or black?
white evangelicals and black people,
Okay.
religious, church going black people.
Which means they believe that Jesus is coming back at a certain place and they need to be there. Like, I,
Well, they believe that, Jesus was a Jew,
right.
and for some reason, even though the Jews, had him whacked, the Philistines. But I won't get too much into the Bible story. But they've connected him being a Jew with, oh, if these are his people, they've been selected. And when we look at the Ten Commandments and Ben Hur and every sob story that's come out, we've got to ride with these people.
Yeah.
And people do not understand to this day in 2023 that an Israeli is post 1948. The people that you're talking about, Israelites, if they existed, they did. I'll be nice today.
No, no. Go back. Go back and tell the truth.
Yeah.
If
They
that's a
If
good
they
question.
existed,
If they
be
existed.
if
nicer.
they existed,
Okay.
well, back in biblical times, if that existed, those people do not exist today. You talk about Israelis who have as a narrative that they have been persecuted in Europe for the past 500 years, and that the Holocaust was the epitome of that harassment and persecution, and that because of this they fled to the Middle East, a place where 1/3 of them, their DNA does not connect to, and went to the Middle East to go back to their homeland. These Christians, and I'll talk about black people, do not understand that these Ashkenazi Jews are European and have no connection to the Middle East. So you're cheering for a bunch of people
Yeah.
that have no connection to this area, that because the British were entranced, because the British went to the Middle East, carved up the place, promised Jordan and Syria and Lebanon their own piece of the action, and they promised Iran their own, no, Iraq their own piece of the
That's
action.
right. Go.
Right.
But the Palestinians, who they also promised their own piece of the action, didn't get their 40 acres and a mule.
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Thank you very
So
much.
now, for the past 75 years minimum, they have carried big beef. Now Hamas is taking advantage of it. I don't believe that Hamas gives a damn about their people. If you care about your people,
That's the story.
you'd have taken the money that you've been receiving and investing it in making Palestine look like a nation state. And that's a problem right there that people don't realize. I heard Blinken say today, oh, well, Hamas, they're not a state. Hamas is a state.
Yes.
They're not a state recognized by the UN, even though a bunch of UN members are pulling for Palestine.
So why are you
But
saying Hamas is a state? Come on.
they're a state because they have a philosophy. One I don't agree with. Make it clear, people out there, I don't agree with it, but they have a philosophy and they have a narrative. That is the base for any state. Their problem is now trying to take territory, and the territory that they want to take is land that they believe and can and bring up and can and bring out historical evidence to back up that they believe that is theirs, including where Israel sits.
But if you
Definitely
go
where
to
Israel sits.
So
right,
let
but
me
if
give you let me add a bit of history for you. Israel is the one who financed Hamas into power
Mm,
how so?
because they didn't want the PLO or Yasser Arafat to be in control of Gaza and Palestine. So
mm,
they propped up a side stooge, Hamas, and kept paying them until they got strong enough. And of
mm,
course, they turned on Hamas, and Hamas says, okay, we're strong enough now that we can do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm,
that's why Alton's story has a lot of resonance with me about how they got to be where they are. Another book for you guys to read if you're interested: The Invention of the Jewish Race. Okay,
mm. I
written
got.
by written by a Jewish scholar from Israel, and he lays out this
You
whole
said,
history that
wait,
Alton is talking
you
about.
said invention of the Jewish
Race.
race. You said
Yes,
race.
the invention. You hear what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
understand the word? You want me to give you the
No,
definition of the
I got
invention?
the word. I got the word, and it takes me to the text that you said earlier today. And I said I'm just gonna have to ask about that later. Um, Jewish is not a race.
Well, it's the Jewish people, the invention of the Jewish people.
Okay, not a
That's
race.
the correct title, but they are passing themselves off as being an ethnic group.
Yeah, that's what you said.
They are passing themselves, even though the majority of them, as Alton said, come out of Eastern Europe. They were more German. Here's another book for you
Mm,
on the Wheel of Fire. I can give it to you. Wheel of Fire lays out how the Jews were more German than the Germans were.
mm,
And when Hitler started coming down the pipe, it was many of the Jews that was turning into bad Jews.
mm.
Okay.
I've heard that theory before because it
All right,
goes
but let's.
to the definition of the word Holocaust.
Right, right.
But didn't the Jews start out Roman Empire? Let's go back.
No, no, no. You
In
going back too
in
far. If you don't start in 1948, you don't have the right people.
I'm not going to start in 1948 because 1948 decision had to do with what happened 2,000 years before.
No, it didn't have anything to do with 2,000 years before. It had something to
And
do
that
with
is
50
Jewish were
years.
right there in Jerusalem, whatever they called it
No,
at that time.
no, no.
And during the Roman Empire, they got dispersed out they got thrown out of wherever they were,
And
lost their
see,
Yeah,
this
land.
is
yeah,
and
yeah.
see what you're doing is you're reading the playbook that has been put out with Ben Hur, Moses on top of the mountain. You don't realize that, but I'm telling you, I'm challenging your story. They
Okay.
started in 1948. There's a guy named Herzl in late 1800s. Herzl came up with the idea.
Of
We're going
Zionism.
and see the trick here, and I'm gonna tell you
I
guys
remember that. I read
when I
that.
talk about them in public, I don't call them Jews, I call them Zionists over there right now. Because the Zionists are the
Yeah.
political arm. They're the ones that most of them are not even, they don't even practice Judaism. Most of them don't even believe in heaven and hell and none of that kind of stuff like that. They believe in Zionism as the chief component. And so if you start anywhere before 1847, then you have not captured the people that you're talking about that occupy that place now. Anything before that, all that Roman occupation and all that, that used to be
Ottoman
North
Empire.
Africa. That used to be North Africa. Then they cut a water path through there called the Suez
Yes.
Canal
Oh, yeah.
and began that buildup of let's change the name to the Middle East. Begin that name of Egypt is not even in Africa as a way of separating that part of the world from everybody else. And then they control it. You see, so that's why I stop you, Jeanette. We're not going to talk about no 2,000 years because this hadn't gone on for 2,000 years. It started in late 1800s. Okay, culminated in 1948 with the lies that the British told that Al Alton talked about. Now, since other people are listening, get the books, Wheel of Fire, get the book, The Invention of the Jewish People, and
And
they'll
there's
give you
also
the whole story.
and there's also another one I'm reading, the 13th Tribe. I'll have to get the
13th
author.
tribe, yeah, 13th tribe. I got the
Another one.
13th tribe. Now, those are some books, the Ashkenazi. That'll lay out. In other words, Jeanette, you're Baptist, Mona is Methodist, Alton is Republican, and I'm something. In other words, we just make up, but we all up under the same umbrella. That's who the Ashkenazis were. They came in and they were recruited and baptized and then created their own, but it wasn't no 2,000 years ago, baby girl.
No,
Don't even talk 2,000 years ago,
they've got no
because
connection to.
no connection. You can't find bloodline. And as a famous rabbi told me, this is my famous rabbi story. I said to the rabbi, I said, Rabbi, the historians say that those pyramids in Egypt could not have been built by slaves and that they were built much earlier than the supposed date that Moses was there. And this was her response. And I want you to remember this. This rabbi looked me dead in the eye and says, we don't care whether these stories are true or not. They are our stories. And we're going to tell our stories for our people because that's what's important.
Yes.
Am I looking?
And that's what
Let
they
me no.
are.
Hold on. Let me look in the camera and say it to you again,
Yeah, I
Jeanette.
don't know what you're looking at, but
Yeah, I'm looking at you, but you on the wrong side. So I'm looking dead in the camera.
Yeah.
She said to me, we don't care if these stories are true or not. They are our stories. So they already know that the historical world
Talk like
cannot validate, document. They can't even find Jesus. Well, I don't even want to get into that
talking
because
like
that,
a
Yeah,
you
true
know, you're going to turn over a lot of Christians off when they realize that
talking
half of these fairy tales that are written did not exist.
yeah.
But I mean
yeah.
that's the
Talking like
historical version. Okay,
talking like
yeah.
Mona, what's up, Mona? Go ahead.
she's like she's like a true European who stole all of the history to rewrite history. I'm with you, Albert, to say you cannot point nowhere on earth where Jesus is born. But people don't want to hear that. That this whole fighting over there is all a lie. You know,
Mm.
I was looking at a documentary. It was saying this is where the returning of God. Well, I'm saying, I'm sorry, but there's not going to be a rapture, and it's not going to be a return.
Nope.
Those are allegories in the Bible, but we don't want to believe that.
Yeah, I'm not arguing any of that. I do believe there is history and empires and all that other stuff, and people migrating from one point to the other. I mean, we all know that even about ourselves. So, um, so I don't know about the 1948, except yes, Herzl, I guess his name was, came up with the whole Zionist principle, and it caught on. The UN, after the British debacle of promising everybody everything, gave it to the UN. UN said, okay, let's send them over there in the Palestine to Israel, whatever, and we got this whole years and years and years of wars.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ain't
so
no
I
years and
agree
years
with
of
that, but
war.
I really want to
I
give
don't.
us
I
some idea of not being
well.
afraid to take
Mhm.
a position on what it is that we're hearing, where we're understanding where this
Yeah.
comes from.
Yeah.
And that's
I.
I'm
Yeah.
watching. Let me just say this:
Mm.
I'm watching politicians like Cory Booker and whatever go and speak as if we're supposed to just follow
Follow.
and
We
Yeah.
he's
are.
one
We
of our
are.
black leaders. But
We
then
are.
you're watching Cori Bush, the other Cori out there, who takes a stand on the side of the Palestinians, and then she gets attacked.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the
some of the
narrative.
folks need to get it
the
together and
oppressed
figure it out. The
the oppressed is
oppression
always going to get attacked.
the oppression
Yes.
issue is the one that I would like for us to pay attention to.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Thank you
So
for saying that because I can. I'll put on my lawyer hat for half a second. And first, a disclaimer: as a libertarian, we follow the non-aggressive principle. Hamas's encroachment, no. Israel's encroachment, no. Okay.
No.
No
Yes.
to both. And this gets to Jeanette's point about peace. However, yeah, when it comes to the oppressed, Hamas, but no, specifically the Palestinians and black folk,
Good.
we need to be accountable for the attacks on us. What do I mean by that? I'll let you get in a one or two punches first. But if you make the mistake of letting me get up on my feet, I'm not going to turn the other cheek. Something we
Right.
have to address what it is in our histories that allow us to say, well, it is what it is. No, it's not what it is. That
Yeah.
guy's got a gun. Your thought process should go into effect. Well, okay, he's got this firing stick thing. Let's go figure out how he did it because we know he's coming back. There's no it's like the Terminator. There's no negotiating. There's no pleading. He's not going to stop. Once you know that, then you have to say to yourself, well, how do I protect myself from this person? Because again, and what these and what the protesters up in New York and wherever on these college campuses, what unbeknownst to them, what they're pushing is the pain and suffering mantra.
Yeah.
Oh, we got wronged by Israel, so therefore, well, no, that's not going to do you any good, laddies, because the people you're complaining to aren't going to change.
right.
The takeaway is when you see them coming for you and they get in those one or two licks and they swim off like a shark, they're going to come back for another bite. Are
Right.
you prepared to defend yourself? And that is the mistake that the Palestinians made in 1948. That is the mistake that the African peoples made between 1440 and 1503. These people don't look like us, they don't act like us, but they want to kill us. We got to kill them. Then, then you'll be able to talk peace.
Yeah.
But in my
Yes.
opinion,
Yes.
in the Middle East, or really Western Asia, as they say in India, it's I'm sorry, it's too late. It's
It's
too
too late
late.
for
It's
what?
too late for Palestine.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's too late because now the only way, if you're talking, yeah, those people who still talk about peace in the Middle East, what they really mean is, and peace to the United Nations and to Westerners means, I'm going to squash the other guy and shut him up permanently. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to put cement over his shit. And then we're going to have peace and quiet because he doesn't exist. When they say
Right.
peace, that's what that means.
Yeah, I
So
think you're right. I think you're
so
right.
in my opinion, for Palestine, it's game over. Their own, their fellow Arabs don't even want them, and that has been a
Yeah.
problem. It ain't a problem just for today. That has been the mantra from their fellow Arabs for at least the past 40 years or even longer. So they
Yes.
got
Yeah.
nowhere to go. They got nowhere to go. I don't care what BB says and all that. Oh, we're going to try to be humanitarian. Screw you. You're gonna go
All
under
right.
you're gonna you go under tunnels and drop bombs, and you don't think you're gonna take out tens of thousands of people? That's
Well,
gonna happen.
they've already killed 1,000. They've already killed 1,000 children, but
Yeah.
because the press is controlled,
Yes.
because the narrative has been given, then everybody's following that edict. Here's
So I
Yes.
another
guess
book.
you,
Here's another book for you, Jeanette. See, I'm throwing out
yeah.
all these books
Right.
that I
I'm
explained.
gonna have to. I'm gonna have to interrupt you on the book, and thanks for all the books because I am writing them down because I'm very interested in this subject. But my key tonight is to Black folks who might be listening, but anyone, do your homework. Get to know the plight of these peoples, and do not just tag on to "I support Israel" or "I support Palestine." Understand why you make the statements that you make.
Right.
So, guys, we're out of time. Mona, we're out of time. So, thank you for great conversations as usual. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I'm likely not going to give notice, but 2 weeks.
Alton, talk to her, please.
Ciao.
Yeah.
We want
Talk to her,
notice.
please. Hollywood, an empire of our own. You got
Ciao.
to read that book about how the Jews decided they were going to control the media.
Mm.